Hi there, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Nurturing Success. Today we have Tori Sierra with us. Tori is a financial planner, advisor. She has a really unique focus in her practice, which I think is interesting. And I'll have her tell you more about that. But I'll read her kind of headline. Helping female entrepreneurs of color find power in their money. Right. So I think that's really interesting and a great niche that you can tell us more about. But before I go there, Tori, we always like to start with a really important question about what are you grateful for today? So what are you grateful for?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be with you. I am really grateful for a healthy body and mine as I'm growing my baby due in July.
Uh,
I've
yeah.
been feeling really great, and I know how different pregnancies are for many women. So there's not one day that I'm taking for granted at all.
Yeah. Oh, that's exciting. Well, congratulations. And, I knew that you were expecting, and I'm happy that you shared it because that means we can talk a little bit about it and how it might affect, your work and life. And I think that's interesting and a great topic for, other people going through the things and certainly advisors. I think there's so many great women that are advisors. I think there's some really unique ways that women advisors work with people, and I won't say that men don't have empathy because I think many men do have empathy, but women just seem to have more of it,
Yeah.
and they're a little bit more in touch with certain things which are important to people, which is great. So, tell me a little bit about how sort of the female entrepreneurs of color, sort of work with their money. Tell me how that came about, the genesis, and how that became something you're passionate about.
Yeah, I started my career. I've been an advisor for actually just celebrated 11 years as an
Oh, nice.
advisor. So I used to be a next gen advisor, but I think I've kind of passed that
Not,
mark.
not at all.
But and I started my career working with teachers,
Yeah.
and that my mom's a teacher. I have so many, my best friend's a teacher, so many teachers in my life, and that was a great place to start. Um, but I also saw kind of a gap in financial services geared specifically toward female business owners and specifically female business owners of color. So I really wanted to be intentional with my focus and my time, especially as my time's going to become a lot more valuable now that I'm going to be having a baby. I just wanted to really work with the clients that light my fire, and I am also a female business owner of color
Mhm.
myself. So I know a lot of what um, our concerns are, our problems are, how to be the Jill of all trades and kind of be doing everything at once, how to grow a team, and how to balance revenue with your mission and all of that. So I feel like I can really speak to their problems and come back to them with a lot of really great solutions.
Yeah, no, that's neat, and yeah, no, I really admire that you're doing that. You mentioned team. Tell me a little about that team and how that team has enabled you to really pursue that niche and that passion and how that's worked together.
Yeah, so my team is made up of my husband, Alex. He's
Mhm.
also a certified financial planner, and we got really lucky. We just work really, really well together. I love working
Yeah.
with him. We have different strengths and just kind of things just work. And we are both the owners and lead advisors of our team. We also have an associate advisor, Brandon, and a client services associate, Max. Max does a lot of the operations, and Brandon has been in Max's role for the last, or was in Max's role for the last 5 years. And as of almost a year now, he's been an advisor. So we're kind of helping him grow his practice, and
Mhm.
he's
Mhm.
doing an amazing job.
That's great. Are there plans to grow the team more? Have you guys talked you down the road in 5, 10 years, or what are you thinking? If you don't mind sharing, up to you.
Yeah, that's what this baby's for. No, I'm just kidding.
That is some
Get him
long
on the
range
phones.
succession planning. Let me tell you.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
right.
So I've also been working on a few projects with another advisor and partner of mine, Jessica. She is
Mhm.
the one that I've partnered with to be working with female founders and entrepreneurs of color. So that is one way that we're also continuing to grow. We also really want to support um, young advisors because it's really hard to be a young advisor in the industry now. Like in the first 3 years, there's no real way, like no real entry point anymore for companies or other advisors to support a new person unless it's in like a sales assistant role or like a client service
Yeah.
role. I also, I just actually, we just got this CFP board magazine and it just happened to
Very
be
nice.
here, I
Nice.
promise.
That's great.
Um, and it talked a lot about just the statistics of
Mhm.
certified financial planners. And the majority of planners are 85% of them are male.
Mhm. Yep.
And then also 3% are Hispanic, 4% or 5% are Asian, and I think 1% are Black. So I think growing our team intentionally and making it more diverse, making the industry more diverse, I
Yeah.
think is really, really important. And we're committed to that cause and hopefully um, growing the financial industry and kind of the experiences that advisors have that are working with Americans. America's looks pretty different
Yeah. Yeah, it sure
now
does. Yeah.
than
Yeah.
it has in the last several years and decades. So we want to meet clients and clients that haven't necessarily been catered to over the last few decades and hundreds of years necessarily. We want to help them build wealth.
I love that, and I appreciate the mission that you're on and the clear passion you have around it. You're absolutely right. I mean, I think most people realize it, but depending on who ultimately hears this, the reality is that almost all financial services have been dominated by white males, right, for a long time,
Right.
and it's changing, but it's a slow change. But I can tell you, as one of that demographic sitting right here,
Yeah.
is that I know how important it is that there's another generation, a next gen, and I'm excited. I'm trying to encourage people to get into the mortgage finance side of the business, and the younger the better, and I think it's great because we need young people, and I'm excited about the future. I had a chance to interact with lots of younger folks, and while some people think that there's all sorts of stereotypes around that generation, I can tell the people I've met are smart, they're caring, they want a better world, and I think more power to them. Let's get them on board, Tori. You're right, as
Yeah.
many as possible.
Yeah, but I also think it's really important to build on what's been done before us, before
Yeah.
like the next gen and before the industry kind of changes the way that it looks or um, acts, right? So I think a meeting of the minds there is really important to not forget about what's come before.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Right, so you can learn, you can come into business with energy and enthusiasm, but learn from those that have been on the path before you, right? Because there's important
Exactly.
lessons to be learned, and how do we come together to make a difference, kind of in the world, as it were.
Yeah.
What would you tell? I mean, what do you tell young people that want to think about finance, as a career, and what would you tell them to do? And even a young advisor, as you said, they don't have a book yet. They tend to fall into sales assistant roles or something else like that, which may or may not be their path. What would you tell them to do? What's your advice?
I honestly I think the path in is to get your feet wet like as you're getting your licenses, so your
Mhm.
insurance licenses, your series 7 and 66. um, while you're doing those, I think it's a good way to get your feet wet by being a client services associate or
Yeah.
being a sales assistant because it's a good way to just learn the back office like operations aspect of being an advisor with the intention that you won't have to necessarily do that when you are a full-time advisor, because ideally you'll be hiring that out, by hiring your own assistant once you get started.
Mhm.
But um, just having the knowledge and like the foundation of how to do a recharacterization of a Roth IRA and how to add it back to a non-deductible, like all of that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. It's really important to just have that basic knowledge so that you know how to teach someone else to do it in the future.
Well, yeah, I think that brings up a good point that, if you learn something well enough to teach someone else,
Mhm.
then you have the knowledge, right? That's the bridge to
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I
So
would
cool.
also say, like, if
Yeah.
you're just getting started in the business, even if you're starting out as a sales assistant and a client services associate and you're not necessarily like client facing yet, I would really start to think about, if your intention is to become an advisor, what niche market lights your fire. As I was mentioning before, female business owners of color lights my fire, and it took me a little bit to narrow in on that. But if you kind of start to think about what drives you to help people in their financial planning, um, that will give you kind of a head start to start meeting people in that specific
Mhm.
niche. Like our client services associate Max, he is really into being in the gym and lifting weights, and he's really into cars. And he eventually wants to be a financial advisor. So he has thought about potentially working with gym owners, or
Yeah.
people that own car shops, um, and those who maybe have a passion around cars. So even though he's not working directly with clients yet, he's not prospecting yet, his wheels are kind of turning, and he's starting to think and envision what his future looks like as an advisor.
No, that's neat. Well, going back to sort of your niche, as it were, did you work with a business coach at some point in the past? And how did you arrive at that? Was there, because it takes a while to get to something, right? And
Yeah.
some people don't have the ability to think through it. So help us. How did you get there?
Yeah, I did work with a business coach
Okay.
for about a year and a half.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think of how I got there, because like you said, it is kind of like an
It's a
evolution.
journey, and it's a tough journey. I can tell you.
Yeah. You don't just arrive at that
No.
very specific niche. But I think just like during our conversations, and she really helped with marketing and creating copy and putting
Mm.
myself in clients' shoes. I found myself speaking to female business owners of color specifically,
Yeah.
because it was myself too. I guess kind of selfishly in that way. Um, but it did take a little bit. But I think honestly, working with a business coach changed my life and really made me focus on what I wanted to create in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. That's neat. I've had a business coach almost my entire 35 years of a professional career.
Wow.
And it's been different types of
Right.
coaches along the way. So, yeah, I would tell anyone, get a coach before you can afford a coach, right?
Yeah.
In reality, because I know you're going to hear the resistance. Oh, I can't afford two, 500, 1,000, $2,000, whatever it is a month. The
Mhm.
reality is that you can't afford not to, right?
A
It's
hundred
going to
percent.
accelerate your business. Yeah.
Yeah, it's invaluable to have somebody look at your brain and your thoughts from a third party,
Yeah.
like non-biased perspective,
Yeah.
and kind of question what your default thinking is like, and what your um, neural pathways are kind of
Yeah.
just ingrained to make you automatically do. So you can kind of like rethink, maybe if you want to change your results, like redirect your actions.
Yeah.
And that's what I really got from my business coach.
Neat. Oh, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So where are clients engaging with you these days? What are the conversations you're having? What are consumers worried about? Where are they looking for your guys' help?
Yeah. So when I'm working with clients, or when someone is working with an advisor, I think it's really important to work with an advisor who helps them discern between things that they can control
Mm.
and the things that are out of their control. A lot of what I work on with clients are controlling their own behaviors, or matching their actions with their values. So kind of like, I guess what we were talking about with the business coach too. I'm kind of like implementing some of that, in how I'm working with clients too. But it's like, how much can they save? Can they save? Is their portfolio appropriate for their goal? Can they exercise self control when the market is down? Can they choose to reach out to me before selling all of their assets if the market's down, et cetera? I think that makes a huge difference between a successful investor and an unsuccessful one.
Mm.
Is just not really. It is good to have context of external things that are going on, right? The market, it being an election year, how much money you're making, and you're in your current situation. But as long as you're kind of just focusing on what you can control in terms of investor behavior, um, I think working with an advisor that understands that, is invaluable.
I think that's well said. And it's interesting that almost everything you said had to do with emotions, right? And
Mhm.
had to do with, people making decisions, that way. Because, oftentimes I think that investors and people that want to invest money are thinking through the number side of it. They're thinking about returns and safety, liquidity, all that kind of stuff. And all that's important. But at the end of the day, if you can't save, then it doesn't make any difference, right? And if you're going to yank everything out when there's a 10% downturn, then the psychology is really important, as you point out. So that's
Exactly.
neat.
And like all of the vehicles, I mean, how you invest in the vehicle and which you're investing is important, but it they're a dime a dozen now. There's so much out there. Like, uh, investing has kind of become commodified with all of the different
Mhm.
platforms where you can like do it yourself, um, and so I think what really has a big impact is the behavioral aspect of it.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Well, cool. Is there any tools that you guys use in your practice that you're willing to share with us? You think are somewhat unique, and they could be tools that it could be software, it could be anything that maybe stands out. If you don't mind sharing, it would be cool.
Yeah, I have two things. So one is the structure in which we're engaging with clients and our menu of services with Advice Pay. And
Mhm.
then two is using
Wait,
AI
I'm sorry. Say it again. What was the name of that? What was? Did you say it was?
with Advice Pay.
Oh, okay. Advice Pay. Okay, got it. Yep.
Yeah, it's
All right.
Michael Kitz's platform,
Yep.
to do subscription-based planning.
Yep.
And then the
Neat.
second one is, using AI, which we can talk about in a
Yeah.
second. But many advisors, starting with Advice Pay, many advisors have a minimum level of AUM, and they don't see clients with assets below a certain point, which is totally fine if that's how they want to run their business. Our team really values just starting with someone from where they are today and giving them really high quality financial advice if that's something that they're seeking, regardless of AUM, while still making a minimum level of revenue for our business, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Um, and so we've been using Advice Pay to launch our subscription based financial planning package that, again, allows us to work with clients that want advice but don't yet have the assets to work with a typical financial planner. So that kind
Yeah.
of fills the gap in there. And then, oh, any questions on that
No,
part?
no, that's great. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Keep going.
And then with AI, leveraging, the beauty of AI, um, with budgeting, I've noticed a lot of budgeting apps are implementing AI within
Yeah.
their categorization and within their automations and all of that. So that's kind of unrelated to, um, software that we are recommending for our clients, but it's, involved in advice works that our clients use. It's our client portal. And then also Canva. Canva has a lot of
Okay.
AI. As
Yeah.
you know, you do your
Yeah.
workshops on,
Yeah.
Canva-based AI. That's been helpful in creating content, posts, um, a lot of marketing pieces for our team. And then, our beloved Chat GPT,
Of
we've been
course.
using to brainstorm for things like video outlines.
Yeah.
We're not using it verbatim, obviously, but it's just kind of like to, help us brainstorm. So I can type in there, what are the top 5 things that are, important to female founders of color,
Mm.
or what are some challenges that they might be dealing with? Um, or let's see, what are some things that retirees should be
Mm.
considering as they approach retirement. I mean, these are things that we can sit down and think about on our own, but if we're using the power of AI, we can leverage that to save some time to start an outline for us to then build off of. So we use ChatGPT to put those prompts in for video outlines, for blog posts, for captions, for Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook, and actually too for presentations even.
I,
So yeah.
you just described, how AI should be used by professionals. Right? It's an amazing tool, and as you know, I do classes around AI, and there's always a few people that are really fearful. And yeah, I don't know what everything's going to happen with it, but I don't know a lot of things. I don't know what's going to happen with, right? But the
Yeah.
reality is right now it creates a lot of efficiency in your daily work, and it's just the way it generates stuff for you so quickly, and just tweak it. Like I said, it's 80% of the way there, and you make it your own from there. That's my advice when we're talking about AI.
Yeah.
So that's neat. Well, as we sort of get ready to wrap up here, I want to talk a little bit about just liability management. Obviously, I'm in the mortgage space. Helping people manage the debt side of the balance sheet is really important to us, and we believe we can make a big difference in people's lives. How do you think about liability management, and how, or is it woven into your practice?
Yeah, I work with my clients on identifying their liabilities and creating and implementing a debt payoff plan, if any. As you know, some debts are good to leverage and keep around, other debts are better to eliminate altogether. So educating them on the order in which it should happen is kind of the first step there. Um, some clients hate their mortgage payment. They're like, I don't want to pay for my mortgage. I want to pay it down as soon as possible. So that's when just the education part of it comes in on my end to help them
Sure.
just talk through that initial thought, and if that's really what they want to do, then I just want to give them all of the information possible to then make an informed decision, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. And it's neat, yeah. So, I mean, liability management takes many different forms, and yeah, there's emotions, just like all finances and so forth. People have, it's your money story oftentimes, and the money story comes from things oftentimes that are external, parents, grandparents, and friends, and so forth. And so I think the majority of the role that you play in people's lives and we play is around the psychology and helping them understand how they're making decisions. And then just giving them options. Then, of course, it's their decision from there. So that's great. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
exactly.
you.
What have you seen kind of on your end with liability management, and like what people are coming to you the most with?
Yeah, people don't want to have debt, right? The reality is that people borrow typically because they have to borrow, right? So if someone had the money to pay for something, whether it's a pair of shoes or a $2 million house, a lot of people believe if they had the money, they would just buy it for cash, right? But that has long-ranging implications, right? So, interest has two sides to it. There's the cost of money, but then there's also the money you're going to earn on the other side. And people are fearful about higher interest rates, except right now you can earn, 5.5% tax-free, risk-free. So
Mhm.
these two things, the dynamics are always in play at all the time. So at the end of the day, in our practice, we're trying to help people understand that that's not necessarily bad. How
Yeah.
you manage the debt, how you repay the debt, can be either really positive or really negative, depending how you view it. And so our eye is always on, okay, how do we manage cash flow better so that people can get more money into the asset side of the balance sheet, right? I
Mm.
don't want a client giving a lender an extra $20,000 a year in interest when they could be saving the $20,000 in other areas, right? And so that just takes education back and forth. But at the end of the day, I think it's critical. And I think that, looking just a little further ahead, there's a lot of home equity in the world. And it's an asset that's not often integrated into retirement income planning. And I think it can be more effectively, integrated into it. But it takes conversations and education. And we love doing it, luckily. So it's okay. So
Yeah,
thank you for asking.
amazing. Yeah, of course. I'm grateful and excited to have a partner like you just to have a resource for our clients to go to for liability management.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to give you the last word, And so, is there any last words you have for advisors? It could be personal advice, it could be, business advice, anything that you think is important that should be out in the world.
Huh. Um, yeah, I would say your time, and this I guess is kind of geared toward advisors in their first maybe 10 years,
Okay.
maybe even 5 years. But when you first start out, you will take anybody on as a client who has a pulse and some money. um, and that's great. Like you build from somewhere, right? You got to start somewhere. But as you start to build the foundation of your income and as you start to build on your experience, I think it's really important to become more selective and more intentional with the way that you're spending your time.
Mm,
Whether that's not working on paperwork and hiring out a sales assistant, um, or not maybe taking on someone that you don't necessarily see where you can have a huge impact. Um, if you want to work with public service employees, be really intentional about spending your time with public service employees.
yeah.
Um, so I think early on, kind of understanding where you are in the grand scheme of things and building. And then as you get further along in your career, beginning to be really selective with who you're spending your time with and how you are spending your time, I think is really important.
Well, thank you. That's is very thoughtful and I think incredibly valuable advice.
Mhm.
So thank you for sharing it, and thank you for your time today, Tori. It was great to chat with you. Good luck with your baby. I'm really excited for you. You
Thank
and,
you
and,
so
and
much.
Alex as well. I guess I should be excited for Alex as well, but
Yeah.
that's going to be great. So best of luck and continued fantastic success. And we'll see you soon. Thank you very
Thanks so
much.
much, John.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Take care. All right. Bye.